Hey, welcome to Categorical Imperatives. As always, I am Lockie and Liberal, and this is the podcast where we will be using legal and moral philosophy to dissect issues of current events surrounding politics and culture. And today's show, I actually have something very different for you guys from what I normally do. I I don't know if it's going to go well. If it doesn't, I'll just not post this, and so who gives a fuck, right? Um, But what I want to do today is rather than come to you with a worked and reworked and scripted show that I have shot and I've gone over, and I generally try and bring you guys something that is nice and clean and polished and professional ish, as professional as someone can be for making a show in their living room. But today is going to be a little different. I want to address a topic that generally relates to what we talk about on the show, and it's not necessarily big enough of a topic for me to spend a few days working out an episode for, but I think it is worth addressing real quick here. So I kind of want to go over just sort of uh, a series of events that have been happening since the other night at the State of the Union address. Um, and I can't say this clearly enough because I really do my best to avoid saying anything on here that could be taken as partisan or betray my own personal politics. Uh, so I I'm going to probably be saying things that are very offensive to Democrats and will be very offensive to Republicans. Uh, and it is not a defense or a condemnation of either of them, nor should it be taken as a sign of my own partisan nature. I think they can both be absolutely terrible at times. I have no problem with them at times. So this is really just more of an individual thing. I hope uh, people will be able to see that nuance. And this is the internet where everyone can see nuance and get a full context of what people say, right? Oh shit. All right. Well, what I want to respond to specifically is the other night at the end of the State of the Union address, there was this kind of whole big deal where Nancy Pelosi uh, stood up and very kind of theatrically ripped up the speech that the president had just given that evening. And a lot of people have been I mean, have been rightfully upset about this. That was a childish, petty thing to do, without a doubt. But the thing is that this morning I kind of turn on the news and I see a young Republican member of the House, a guy named Matt Gates, and he's holding a press conference about this, and he's saying, not only what she did was wrong, but it was criminal, and we are going to be launching an ethics complaint against Nancy Pelosi because she violated a law regarding destruction of government documents. Um, and that was, I mean, that statement was just as stupid and offensive as Nancy's tearing up of the president's speech. And so I uh, tried to, I quickly addressed this earlier on social media and wanted to just address it on a sort of fairly simple philosophical level, but because this is the internet where nothing can be nuanced or philosophical or a single sentence doesn't isn't taken to betray your entire ideological outlook. It hasn't been taken that way. So I just kind of wanted to address it here. All right, first of all, let me read you what I wrote. What I wrote earlier today on a profile was no, I don't I'm saying that. I said, "No, no, no. I don't like what Nancy did, but tearing up the president's speech is itself protected speech. It's free expression on par with a destructive act like flag burning uh, that has been considered uh, protected speech by the Supreme Court and precedent. And that if the issue is a rebuke for a lack of decorum, which is what he was really arguing for, was a rebuke for a lack of decorum befitting a member of the House, then he should move to censure. That is what censure is for. That's exactly what it's for. That's only what it's for, really. Um, but anyway, so I went on to say, you know, uh, even people you don't like have every right to exercise free expression and free speech, uh, even if you view it as childish and petty and an act of uh, destruction, as long as it makes a political statement. And uh, I got a lot of responses back to that. Almost none of them seeming to understand what I said. Uh, So one thing that I saw kind of repeated over and over was uh, comments that were similar. I'll just read one version of them right here. I have a reply from someone who says, "So you would be okay with Nancy Pelosi going and shredding the original copy of the U.S. Constitution in the name of free speech?" Which is just such a statement of profound ignorance. Couldn't possibly believe. uh, I would have to even respond to it, except that a lot of people came in after that person and agreed with them. So maybe this does need addressing after all. So there's 2 points to make here. First, really quick, I want to make the technical legal argument that I didn't make earlier in the post, uh, because I didn't think it would be necessary. I didn't think anyone could be this stupid, frankly. Um, so I'm going to make the technical legal argument, and then I want to move in to make a point about sort of contrasting what their idea of free speech seems to be with r reality. Alright, so hang on here, like, this is kinda new to me, let's see here. There we go, okay, yeah, bear with me, pulling up web pages like this is not something I usually do on the fly. Alright, so, this is the law, that Representative Matt Gaetz, was referring to, that he said Nancy Pelosi had violated his Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 2071, concealment, removal, or mutilation generally. And whoever willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, or destroys, or attempts to do so, or with intent to do so, takes and carries away any record, proceeding, map, book, paper, document, or other thing filed or deposited with any clerk or officer of any court of the United States or in any public office, or with any judicial or public officer of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years, or both. Now, I I can see why anyone who is uh, predisposed to be offended to what Nancy Pelosi did could read something like this and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, that clearly she violated that law." I can kind of see how you could reach that view, but the thing is, Rep. Matt Gates should know better bringing it up. He knows that this doesn't apply. And the reason it doesn't apply is right here, right in the words of the statute itself. He talks about anything, any file or document deposited with any clerk or officer of any court or public office or public officer. What they are talking about is original documents of record, cataloged and filed legal historical documents. To me, it seems absolutely perfectly clear that what they are talking about is the destruction of documents in a way that is meant to keep the information on that document to either destroy it or to keep it hidden or secret or to obfuscate the information on the document. That's what they are talking about. Destroying a document in a way that the information on it is no longer available. So, first of all, when Donald Trump writes a speech, that's not a public record. That is his own individual intellectual property. Those, well, really, more than anything, it's his speechwriter's intellectual property. But a speech given by a president does not constitute a cataloged document or public record. It doesn't. And furthermore, I, I'm astonished that nobody would realize that, uh, for her to tear up a paper copy of it after that very information had just been read out in great detail by the president live on TV on every single fucking channel in the country over the course of the last hour, the idea that the information that was given there was somehow being concealed or was not freely available to the people anymore is absolutely insane. I mean, there it's absolutely insane that this would even need to be uh explained to people. Now, there is one more point I want to bring up just in case uh what I'm saying isn't getting through to anyone out there still. Uh Come on. Here we go. I wanted to bring this up. U.S.V. Rosner. This is a district court case from 1972, and the reason that it is relevant is, excuse me, hang on just a sec here. Um, Fairly apparent fairly early on when we go down here and we read the opinion that starts. Uh, Defendant Edmund Rosner has moved to dismiss the indictment pursuant to Rule 12 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure and to suppress evidence of certain conversations between himself and a government agent for the reasons that follow. The motion to dismiss is granted as to count 3 and as to all reference to 18 U.S.C. Section 2071 and count 1. The motion is denied in other respects. So what we're seeing here, remember that's the exact law that Matt Gates was quoting as being the relevant law for destruction of public documents. Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 2071. If you'll bear with me for just one more second again, if we scroll down to the relevant area, if you remember, they said relevant to count 3. So when we scroll down here, count 3 charges the defendants with removing, attempting to remove, or causing to be removed records, documents, and papers kept in the files of the United States Attorney's Office of the Southern District of New York. Such conduct is alleged to violate 18 U.S.C. 2071. It is not disputed, however, that they are not accused of actually removing documents in the government's possession, but rather obtaining photocopies. The government's memorandum describes their conduct as follows. The defendant's alleged scheme had called in part for Lucci's contacts to provide Xerox copies of material. So, and if we scroll down a little bit, Rosner moves to dismiss this count on the grounds that Title 18 U.S.C. Section 2071 does not prescribe mere photocopying for the reasons stated. I agree. So, when Nancy Pelosi has a copy of a speech given by a president, a copy that was printed for her specifically to read along with, a copy that everyone else in that fucking room had. She had a photocopy. She destroyed her own personal photocopy of the speech. It's not a public record to begin with, and even if it was, what was being destroyed wasn't the public record itself, it was a photocopy of the record of the document in question. The fact that I need to point this out is just astonishing. Um, so now that that's clear, I kind of want to get to addressing the more philosophical point that I was trying to make earlier in my original posting that people did not seem to understand. It just it really bothers me that the people who are getting upset and saying what she did, who are attacking me for saying that what she did was an act of free expression and free speech, uh, are the very same types of conservatives who will constantly whine and complain about their own free speech being unfairly under attack. And that is an argument that I am incredibly sympathetic to as long as you apply it to people you disagree with. That is clearly not what they're doing here. It's it's unacceptable when someone tries to stifle them, but they should be able to stifle others. At least when you look at the people who say stupid shit like hate speech is not free speech. Uh, well, yeah, it is, but at least they have a consistent standard. Their thing is, if what you say is hateful, I say it's not free speech. They're wrong, but at least they're ethically consistent in being wrong. I mean, something hateful is something hateful. It's not something hateful said by a Republican. It's just anything hateful, anything they judge to be hateful, which, uh, by the way, is just about everything. But anyway, so yeah, it's uh, if you're gonna hold a stupid view, just hold it consistently and on a principled basis. That's all I ask. And so I just, in response to uh the reply that I got, and that a lot of people kind of copied about. So you would be okay with Nancy Pelosi going in and shredding the original U.S. Constitution in the name of free speech? No, that's retarded. No. Now, what she did wasn't anything like that. What she did, if anything, was like going to the gift shop on Capitol Hill, where I've got, you can get all kinds of copies of the Constitution. You can get big poster printings of the Constitution. You can get annotated constitutions. You can get pocket constitutions, usually for like $1. Um, Now, if Nancy Pelosi walked into the gift shop in Capitol Hill, bought herself a U.S. pocket constitution, walked out of the gift shop into the rotunda, and then made a big theatrical scene of tearing up her copy of the pocket constitution, of course that's fine. We're not talking about equivalent things here. So, yeah, it just yeah, I really don't know what to say. It's just you this it's just like not that long ago there was a big thing. Someone uh, like there was a flag burning somewhere. I forget where, but a bunch of conservatives got really uh upset about it. And started these social media petitions that were getting like tens of thousands of signatures, that the person who had committed this act of flag burning, that was burning their own American flag that, what as far as I know, was theirs. Um, this person was a citizen. Not that you need to be a citizen for natural rights to apply to you, but this person was a citizen, and there were arguments being made that the person who burned this flag uh, should be locked up in jail for like something like over a year. That basically they wanted them to do prison time, then have their citizenship revoked, and then be kicked out of the country. And like, if this was something that had just been said in the heat of the moment by someone who is pissed off about the flag burning because they sort of feel an attachment to the flag, they don't like seeing a flag burning. Fine, if you want to have an emotional outburst about that, that's fine. But to have a concerted and focused effort where you spend a good amount of time like advocating for a petition that you want people to sign, where you're actually trying to get criminal charges brought against an American citizen for burning a flag, have their citizenship taken away, and then have them exiled somewhere. I don't even know where. They're American citizens. They're not from anywhere else. I don't know where exactly you want to send them, but I have no patience for that kind of stuff, and so that's why, I wanted to address this point here, is just when I see so many people, not just in a single outburst, but so many people first saying, and then tons of people parroting the idea that what I'm advocating for is that Nancy Pelosi, should be allowed to go and rip up the original copy of the Constitution. Uh, Fuck you, frankly. If I mean, if that is your understanding of free speech and free expression, all I really have to say to you is fuck you, because that's probably the most complicated argument that you can understand. Go fuck yourself. There's a reason I'm saying that too. There is actually. Nobody nobody needs speech protection for speech we all agree with. If I go out and I just kind of like yell in the middle of a crowd like puppy dogs are adorable, I that's not I don't need protected speech. Of course puppy dogs are adorable. Everyone thinks puppy dogs are adorable. If you don't, you're a fucking monster. You know? So that's the thing. It's like it's very easy to defend speech when it's speech we all agree with, or in a partisan sense when it's speech you agree with. But the real test of free speech comes uh, when it's speech you don't like coming from someone you don't like. Uh, so yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. It's just that yeah, i- that's all I have to say. If you can't stand up for someone's speech, right, because you don't like the person or because you don't like what is being said, then just please don't bother whining about how your rights aren't being protected in the future. Uh, there is a flip side to rights, and that is responsibility. And this is something that's never talked about, unfortunately, by either by either the left or the right. Rights only work when they're balanced with responsibility. What do I mean by that? I mean, the only way that I have my rights is when I make your rights my responsibility, and vice versa. That's very important. The only way I know my rights will be protected is when I take responsibility for other people's rights. And so what happens when everyone wants to talk about rights and no one wants to talk about the responsibility of rights? You're only having half the conversation. And having half the conversation does no good at all. That's all I really have to say about it. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. I yeah, I think I've said what I need to say. So anyways, yeah, thank you for tuning in. Uh, this has been Categorical Imperatives. I have been Lockie and Liberal, talking about idiots and free speech. Thank you.